The Guyana Energy Conference and Supply Chain Expo is kicking off today and running till the 22nd of February. This morning, we have the president of the National Energy Corporation, Dr. Vernon Paltu, joining us via Zoom to give us a little update as to what we can expect inside that conference. Good morning to you, Dr. Paltu.
Good morning, Ruckus, and thank you for having me.
Not a problem. How is Guyana looking this morning?
Well, actually, it rained quite a lot here last night, unlike our weather, very much unlike our weather.
Well, we give thanks for the rain either way.
Sure.
We've been mentioning that the Prime Minister is set to speak this morning. We've been talking constantly about his involvement. But tell me from your perspective, how is Trinidad and Tobago participating in Guyana International Energy Conference?
So, this morning, we are going to have quite a presence at the energy conference. So, in addition to the Prime Minister speaking, as you correctly said, as you know, Minister Young is also going to be speaking tomorrow. But more importantly, and I mean, if of interest to our industry in Trinidad and Tobago, is the fact that we have quite a number of Trinidad and Tobago companies that are doing, presentations and exhibitions at the Expo, which is part of the conference. So, as you know, over the years, many of the energy services companies in Trinidad and Tobago would have developed relationships and partnerships with local Guyanese companies,
Mm-hmm.
and many of them are doing active work in Trinidad and Tobago, in Guyana at this time. So, what we expect to see too is a showcase of the services that Trinidad and Tobago has to offer. And realistically, we have been in this industry for quite some time, more than 100 years. But Guyana in itself has come quite a long way in a short space of time. So at present in 2024, Guyana is producing in excess of 600,000 barrels of oil per day. In just a few short years, that is significant on any scale. Particularly from a regional perspective, they have become now a major global producer of oil. In addition to that, by 2027, they're expected to exceed 1 million barrels per day in production and have access to over a billion standard cubic feet of gas. So there is a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of sharing that can be done between the energy companies in Trinidad and Tobago and the energy companies in Guyana. Also, in today's conference, Trinidad and Tobago government has a pavilion. So we have a state pavilion that encompasses the major state companies in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly the companies within the NGC group, that is NGC, National Energy, Phoenix Park. We also have Labidco and the Green Company, which are all part of the NGC group. And also prominent on this Trinidad and Tobago pavilion would be the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, who is taking the lead in terms of, driving the agenda towards our participation and our involvement within the energy industry in Guyana. So it is expected to be quite a show today with, our companies being able to demonstrate how we can cooperate with the industry in Guyana to help build capacity and build capacity in the shortest space of time.
And that's fantastic. I love that there's going to be that representation from the state. But how do you see the state benefiting from this conference or from participating in the conference, the companies associated with the state?
Right. So, and again, we have been developing this relationship for decades now in terms of partnerships between local companies from Trinidad and Tobago and companies in Guyana. And, we see that there is an opportunity for supporting the development of the industry in Guyana in a much shorter space of time than we would have done in Trinidad and Tobago. So,
Mm.
let me give you an example. We would have, as you know, been producing oil for over 100 years. We have a gas industry for over 50 years. We are world-scale gas, gas producer, as well as a producer of petrochemicals, highest ranked in the world in terms of, top 10 for methanol and ammonia production for many years, etc. And this did not happen overnight. This took decades of learning and development and, finding, issues and overcoming obstacles. What we think we can do and help in terms of developing the industry in Guyana is provide the necessary support to enable the people of Guyana to benefit from their resources in a much shorter time than we would have taken to develop our industry in Trinidad and Tobago. So
Now,
from that perspective, yeah, sure, go
yeah,
ahead.
Dr. Palto, I have to ask because recently we saw some resistance when it comes to some Trinidadian companies moving into Guyana and doing business there. How has the response been to this offer of assistance to being able to say, all right, yes, we have a little bit more experience than you, so we are willing to share this experience? Has it been received well so far?
From a state to state perspective, I'm saying that it has been very well received, Raucus. We have been working closely with various entities within the government of Guyana to provide support and assistance. And so, as a state and as a government, what is being done is that we are working closely with some of the energy services company and the private sector companies to enable that smoother partnership to be built within the industry, both in Trinidad and Guyana. So both entities will benefit as we develop these resources here in Guyana for the benefit of the people of Guyana. Now, that being said, the government of Trinidad and Tobago would have executed an MOU, a far-reaching MOU with the government of Guyana on the 22nd of May 2022. And a key aspect of that MOU involves cooperation on energy matters. So it is more or less formalized from that perspective. And there are high-level bilateral teams from both sides that are involved in executing the various aspects of this MOU. So there are different segments like agriculture, tourism, energy, but with the focus on energy, there is a drive and a trust towards ensuring that, we do things better. That is, in essence, what we are trying to do to make it better, to make it more efficient, to ensure that the region itself benefits from the expertise that reside within all of the countries in CARICOM.
Well, you see, and that's where I was going next because I'm really curious as to how you see Trinidad and Tobago helping the entire region because not just Guyana can be affected by this. We're having representatives from all over the Caribbean in this conference for the next few days.
Oh, absolutely. And as you correctly said earlier in the show, CARICOM Heads of Government meeting is also being held in Guyana next week. So
Yeah.
from that perspective, now globally, the energy industry has undergone significant transition and change within the last decade, more so than it has done probably the previous 50 years or so. And this is dictated by a lot of global events, geopolitical events, social events, even health events like the COVID pandemic. And that in itself have changed the way we have looked at the energy industry globally and within the Caribbean. And from within the Caribbean region, the new energy industry, as I would like to call it, will not be the same as what we are accustomed to. And the reality is that we are in the throes of climate change and the impact of climate change. So the future of the energy industry in the Caribbean region would involve a mixture of different forms of energy. It will rely on traditional fuels like fossil fuels, oil and gas, which are being produced by Guyana, produced by Trinidad and Tobago, and by Suriname in a short space of time as well. In addition, we would have to be utilizing extensively transition fuels like natural gas, LNG throughout the region to bridge that gap until we reach to a future state of renewable energy where there's deployment of wind energy, solar energy, hydroelectric energy, geothermal energy on a wide scale, on a commercial scale throughout the region. And from that perspective, we are ultimately heading towards a low carbon global energy industry that will most likely be dominated by the production of clean hydrogen. And as a region, we are uniquely poised from the perspective that we have all the resources, we have the natural resources, both from a fossil fuel perspective as well as from a renewable energy perspective. And it's only by working together we'll be able to have or realize the full benefit of integrated energy industry for the Caribbean. Because ultimately, what we would want to see and what we would want to what we would like to have for the people of the region is energy security. Energy security means energy affordability. That's affordable energy, access to energy, and security of supply at a in a way that is sustainable. And the way to do that is really by integrating all of the resources within the Caribbean region. So all of the different islands, countries has a role to play in this transition that we go in towards a low carbon future. So by working together, we will in essence be much stronger as an entity towards ensuring the energy security of the region. Just, realistically, we have 15 member countries in CARICOM and 18 million people. Together, we have a much stronger value proposition in terms of shaping the region as opposed to any country doing it on its own.
Now, one of the things that I've noticed is that you've been an advocate when it comes to things like transformation, especially in the energy company, right? So I'm really curious as to your thoughts on, fueling transformation and modernization, which is the theme for the conference. How do you see us being able to play a role in that?
Well, absolutely. And so technology and the use of technology is in reality the future of the industry. We have to be able to leverage what we are doing. There are ways and mechanisms and where we can optimize the efficiency of the current use of the energy that we are producing in terms of integrating artificial intelligence into our energy networks, etc. That will allow us an opportunity to build a future energy sector that is a lot more efficient. We have a global expansion of population, and we have to find innovative ways to drive an agenda that allow us to have a satisfactory standard of living, a satisfactory life for the people of the world. And we getting specifically now to the region and and the Caribbean region and our countries, our individual countries, and only by embracing it, all of the future transformations and the use of technology, will we be able to optimize how we use data? So I can give you an example in terms of how we are optimizing and will be using transformation and transition and technology towards, driving the future low carbon industry. Uh, we would be, as you know, a major petrochemical producer in Trinidad and Tobago. And the reality is that we have to decarbonize that industry in order to remain competitive. In decarbonizing that industry, the production of hydrogen from renewable energy sources will become critical. How do we do that on a local scale, on a regional scale? The fact is that we have resources across the region that will allow us to produce renewable energy at a very economic cost. We have to be able to use technology, use the future, how it is that we transform and transmit energy towards being able to decarbonize the entire energy industry in the region ultimately. So we are setting the stage here in Guyana to enable the people of Guyana and the people of South America, and this is Guyana and Suriname, are all closely related, to use their natural resources to benefit their industry. But by building their industry and innovating in their industry can transform to a low carbon industry in a much shorter space of time than it would take a traditional economy to transition, because they have the opportunity to build it, use technology, and to use the advantage that they would have in terms of access to resources to get there a lot faster than other regions that would be able to do so.
Now, it's very interesting because I just have one more question before we wrap. I know that time is
Sure.
of the essence. However, you mentioned that using that renewable energy and getting to that decarbonized state. Can you give us an idea, just a little bit of hope as to how long it's going to take us to get there as a region?
So we have been doing a lot of work as a region in terms of driving that transition towards the renewable energy state. So there are clear targets, there are CARICOM targets that we have as, in terms of 30% decarbonization by 2030. And we're working assiduously towards getting there. However, as you know, that is easier said than done. There are always challenges. We would have started Project Lara in Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister would have turned sod for that project last year, and we expect production to be in place by towards the end of the year, early next year, in terms of that facility. That is 112 megawatts of renewable energy power, which from Trinidad and Tobago standard will, go just below 10% of our use. But from a regional perspective, it will be the largest renewable energy facility in terms of utility scale in the CARICOM region. And so we are making steps and strides. It is, a process because, again, renewable energy is not as attractive commercially as our traditional oil and gas industry. However, understanding how the global scenario is evolving and transforming, it will only be a matter of time before the economics drive us to that point. While oil and gas, and particularly gas, will remain relevant for many decades to come, the economics will drive us to a point where renewable energy is becoming more and more attractive. So from that perspective, my personal opinion is that we expect to see large-scale deployment of renewable energy within the next decade. And that is throughout the region, Rockus.
Nice. Thank you so much for that this morning, Dr. Paltu, and all the best, of course, in the conference this week. And we look forward to getting further updates.
Sure. Thanks a lot for having me.
Not a problem. Take care. That's Dr. Vernon Paltu. He's the president of the National Energy Corporation, just sharing a little bit of information with us as he gets ready for the Guyana Energy Conference and Supply Chain Expo, which kicks off this morning. And as we would have mentioned, the Prime Minister is set to speak at 8:30 thereabouts this morning. So you can tune into TTT and you'll get some more information. You'll get that whole speech because, of course, the Prime Minister is there in Guyana. He went yesterday. And apparently there's a whole state pavilion, which we just learned about, with a bunch of state companies, energy companies representing. And the conversation should be a very interesting one.
I think so. I mean, just listening to Dr. Paltu this morning, it really excites me to see exactly what's going to be coming out of this. Mention of energy security, the necessary integration of technology as well.
See that renewable energy part?
That last part, definitely.
I'm looking forward to see how it happens within the next decade. I hope that we're around to be able to enjoy the fruits of it. I mean, if not, we definitely know we could secure the next generation and generation to come after that. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a quick break and we come back with more on the Now Morning Show. Stick around.